capital growth should be the key driver for the investment decision rather than cash flow.
Welcome to the Get Invested podcast, where we share great conversations with experts from all walks of life to uncover their secret know-how on where they invest their time, their skills and their money, and the benefits that this has created. You see, the truth is that everyone invests. Every minute of every day, we're investing our time, our skills, our energy and our money in something. Some of us are investing consciously, some unconsciously, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, and sometimes for no impact. Get Invested will help you to start living by design, not by default. I'm going to help you to make it happen, not let it happen. You will hear the top tips on how you can live with conscious intent so that you can live more, work less, and leave a living legacy by investing now. Listen to the show to discover the top tips on how to get started, make the most of your investment journey, and ultimately to be living your dream, not someone else's. More episodes can be found on iTunes or at bushymartin.com.au/get invested. Thanks for listening, and now let's get invested.
Hi, Freedom Fighters. Did you know that over 555,000 residential properties are bought in Australia every year, with between 25 to 35% of these being investment properties? Now, I know firsthand how good property investment can be to help you enjoy a great lifestyle. Yet sadly, only 5%, or about 1 in 20, investors achieve sustainable success. And unfortunately, property investing is the second most common reason that Australians lose money. Why is this? Well, many private property investors and homeowners want to invest in property and live the dream, but they're often not informed enough about the risks that come with it due to three things. Firstly, the sheer volume of investment information that often provides conflicting advice. Secondly, interested parties such as real estate agents and developers providing biased advice from their vested interests. And thirdly, reliance on existing property reports that only focus on current or past market values, data or conditions. So one of the key secrets for success in property is to access current, high-quality, independent and objective forward-looking research based on the key investment criteria integrated with economic forecast algorithms. And the only place you're going to find this in Australia is with Riskwise Property Research. So check them out at www.riskwiseproperty.com.au. So to help you to tackle the future and invest with confidence, this week's episode is part 2 of the special chat with Doron Peleg. Last week, we looked at the past, summarised the learnings, and reinforced the benefits of adopting Riskwise's unique macro to micro research approach. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back and have a listen to this first, as it forms the basis of today's forward-looking discussion. This week, we take last week's learnings and we look to the future. We glean Doron's well-informed and intelligent insights into what is likely to happen that will influence property nationally, and conclude with a detailed rundown on where are the best areas to invest across the country moving forward if you're looking for sustainable growth. So if you want to know what is likely to happen with your property in the future, or you want to know what to invest in and where, then you can't afford to miss today's informative insights from the intelligent and entertaining Doron Peleg. In terms of your view, and let's go macro to micro on this as well, in the context of how you see 2020 shaping up in the property side. What's going to affect things? What things should people be aware of, and where does that leave it in terms of existing property owners and potential property investors?
Okay, so look, without potential additional credit restrictions by APRA, which could be applied, Yeah, without them, the market is extremely positive. Okay, there are many indicators that show that mainly in Sydney and Melbourne, but also other areas like Southeast Queensland, the market will perform very strongly. Why is that? Because of a few reasons. The first one, the sentiment has completely changed. Price increase expectations are very strong. The second one is that all the negative things that we had were effectively reversed. We don't have the political uncertainty or the taxation changes uncertainty. It's way more affordable to buy an investment property. The out of pocket for investors is very low. The interest rate, and also for owner occupiers, is very low.
Yeah.
The lending restrictions were reversed, effective, not exactly reversed but are not as strong as they were.
Yeah.
And in addition, you have a lot of bargains on the market. If you have properties that a couple of years ago were, let's say, 700, and now they're around the 620 or 650, it's in plain English well below what they had, and all the projections are suggesting that it is highly likely that the market will reach a new peak in 2020, which means anything that you buy below the peak will definitely be profitable if it was below the peak price. So that's very simple. Yeah. The only problem or the only concern is actually the regulator, because so far the investor activity has increased, but not that much, because the investor journey usually takes a bit more time.
Yeah.
Okay, from the point of time that an investor makes a decision, I'm going potentially to buy, not a decision, as an idea to potentially buy an investment property, okay, until the settlement, usually it's 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And don't forget that the recent changes happened effectively only in June. Okay?
Yeah.
Which means that we're going to see an increase in investor activity. We've seen that, but we're going to see further increase from February next year.
Yeah.
And then, if we see a strong increase in investor activity plus very strong price increases in Sydney and Melbourne, the regulator can come and say, okay, let's reintroduce credit restrictions on investors. Why? Because number one, it will cool the market a bit. And when I say a bit, it's not price reductions. It's just, instead of delivering double digits capital growth, to deliver, let's say, 3 to 5% capital growth. Number two, investors are a very easy target. Okay, it's very popular to say, let's say, reduce investor activity and increase first-home buyers activity, right? And the other way around. No one wants to hear that investor activity is at record levels and first-home buyers is at record low, right? It's not good news.
Yeah.
And the third thing is that credit restrictions were proven recently as very effective on investors, which means there is a method. It was tested live and proven a very effective thing. So just repeat what we've done successfully. So this could be a big one on the market. But if we do not have any changes to credit restrictions, then it's going to be a very strong year to the market. And also there is the realization, again, that long term is the game.
Yeah.
That there is a huge undersupply of houses, and all the fundamentals are there.
Yeah, it's spot on. No, that's brilliant. If we look sort of more locally, there's been, South Australia, for example, is going through changes to land tax, and I've had a good look at that. While there was a lot of media noise at the top end of town around the impacts that land tax would have for the average mum and dad investor. They're actually going to be better off with the land tax changes. We're seeing changes to the residential tenancy legislation in Victoria and Queensland, which again there's been mixed reports around the impact that might have on demand, but also property values. Have you had a chance to have a look at that in any detail, and what, if any, impacts that might flow through into the property arena?
Yeah, a bit, and I'll actually start it from the bottom line. What we've seen is that, generally speaking, those are not considered in good markets as changes with material impact.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, usually the fundamentals of the market, especially when you talk about let's say Sydney or Melbourne, or in this case it could be Adelaide, are the key drivers, or they have something like 80 to 90% of the driver for the changes.
Yeah.
And the additional things regarding a bit more taxation and changes, as long as they are not radical, and I'll explain in a second what a radical is.
Yeah.
They only have a marginal impact on the market. When do you see a major impact on the market? If you have a searches on property investors that you want, let's say, additional stamp duty of 8% instead of 4%.
Yeah.
And you also want to have a special searches of additional 4%, and you inflate the property value by 8% on foreign investors, this is a material impact, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
If you change the taxation, the land tax completely, and you're saying that the primary place of residence is not exempted from land tax, this will have a huge impact on the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because then we talk about in many areas in Sydney, the land tax, the annual land tax is deep into the 5 figures.
I bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
This would have a huge impact. But all the other changes, when you take the quantitative look, and again, if you remember the previous lesson that we talk about cash flow versus capital growth,
yeah,
you see that this has some moderate impact on cash flow, but it's not enough to shift the market.
Yeah. Yeah, now brilliant. That's good. Are there any other headwinds? And I'm thinking here probably more broadly in the context of the mainstream media often like to keep us fearful of what's happening both globally and nationally. Are there any headwinds that you're seeing that may have an influence on property moving forward, Doron?
Look, generally speaking, the media need good headlines, right? So if someone with a nice title and alleged credibility is going to say that the property prices could fall by 50%, excellent, a great headline, okay?
Yeah.
Now, why? Because if look at me, if I'm the reporter, I have allegedly a well-regarded person, yeah, gave me a really nice headline. I'm obviously quoting him, which means it's his accountability. He's going to make fun of himself, right? Obviously, I'm going to quote him and I'm going to pretend that he's a really smart person. I'm going to ask him some trigger questions, yeah, to have even a bigger headline, yeah?
Yep.
Now, the point is to eliminate the background noise, yeah? To look at it, yeah, that's a funny story. That's an entertaining story, okay? It's more, look, when I read things like that, it's very similar to, I don't know, to gossip and things like that. It's kind of, it's a meaningless thing for entertainment. and this is, yeah, and this is the key thing, because when you look, obviously we all use the media, and I read a lot. I read everything. But what you need to do is to focus and to say, look, who are the, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 research houses or economics that I would like to review and see what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Let's say that I really like to review and to follow Bill Evans from Westpac, and let's say Shane Oliver from AMP. Okay.
Yep.
For our discussion. So I see, and I also love, by the way, Pete Wergent. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
me too. Yeah, and Alan Kohler is, I mean, he's not very property pro, but his overall read of the economics is pretty good.
Exactly. So, yeah, these are just examples. Now, and you have those, you have a few others. Yeah, it makes sense what they're saying. It's a very factual based. Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys have a good reputation, credibility. Obviously, no one is perfect. Everyone can make some mistake, which is fine.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point is that this is the general direction. Yeah. And if someone out of the blue comes and has a huge headline about something that is completely different from what these gentlemen are saying, and say, okay, look, I understand it, but seriously, it's not an intelligent conversation. Okay, it's not that the headline is really funny, entertaining, newsworthy, definitely for the fun.
Yeah,
but there's no substance there.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm suggesting, to eliminate the background noises and to focus on the, let's call it, reliable and independent, credible people that you know.
100%, mate. Most of those industry pundits that you've spoken about forecasting at least 1 and probably 2 more rate drops fairly early in the new year, when the RBA returns in February, and then probably another one, and they're not too far away. Let's say that both of those don't stimulate the sort of inflation or wage growth and unemployment figures that they're looking for. What's your read on what sort of stimulus, if any, may occur from that point, and what, if any, impact will that have on property?
Okay, so that's a good one. Okay, look, generally speaking, and I'm not sure if the RBA do not know, or they pretend that they do not know, but the Australian economy, to my humble opinion, has a major structural problem. Okay, It's a very simple thing to explain. In the past, we had a huge reliance on the mining. Okay, How does it work? You have a lot of investment in new projects. Those investments require many people to provide direct services, which means to work directly for the mining companies, and indirect services, okay, to support all of the activities, okay?
Yeah.
Now, when this is significantly reduced, you need to find something else to fill the gap, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, currently what we have currently is simply not enough, okay? So that's why we see the unemployment is not going down, and more importantly, the underemployment, which means people who work part-time and would like to work full-time, okay?
Yeah.
The current simple measure that we have of unemployment is not good enough today. Why? Because the market changed. Many people work part-time. Many people are contractors, freelancers. So you need to develop a different measure. And we developed something that is called the effective unemployment.
Yeah.
And these numbers are high.
Yeah.
And what happens is that the economy slowly but clearly is going down, which means every time when there is an interest rate reduction, the stimulation of the economy is to bring it down up to what it was, let's say, 6 months ago, right? But it's still going down. So every time you need to provide more support, but the trend is down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is very, very unlikely. It's possible, but very unlikely that you're going to see good wage growth and good improvement in the employment in the next year or even couple of years. Okay?
Yeah.
Because we simply don't have the right strategy. We don't invest in the right things, in technology, in knowledge-oriented industries. Simple as that.
I think also, Doron, and I know that we've sampled some of this ourselves in our own business. There's a lot more outsourcing going overseas. So there's a lot of that mundane work that doesn't have a client interface, sort of VAing it to the Philippines and other parts of the world becomes a fairly cost-effective alternative for particularly small to medium businesses who are, very focused on the bottom line. And I think that sort of bleeding through the bottom of the bucket exercise is probably not captured too much in the figures, but would have to be having an impact on employment levels generally, I would have thought.
Of course it has, and it happens all the time. There are quite a few small things that, in an isolation, they're really small, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you start aggregating them, so obviously the aggregated impact is huge, right?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, in Australia, and look, currently we are in the 21st century. That's news for the Australian government, I think. And I'll tell you why. The 21st century is the knowledge century, okay?
Yeah.
Everything is about technology, innovation, and knowledge.
Yeah.
And we saw that all over the world, right? We see the electric vehicles that will be here.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's it.
Yeah.
We see all the big corporations, we see artificial intelligence, face recognition, everything is going towards technology.
Yeah.
Now, in that space, you have basically only two options. Number one, you provide the technology, you are the owner of the company or the companies. Number two, you consume, or you are the client. Okay?
Yeah.
So currently, the US and Israel and other places, they are the owners, they are the providers. In Australia, largely, is the buyer. Simple as that. Now, I don't know about you, but I prefer to be the seller than the buyer.
Every time. Yep.
Yeah. Now, it's not only that. These are, and this is another thing that some people do not fully understand. These are highly paid positions, okay? Which means if I have two different jobs, person is a barista, yeah? I don't know, 40, 50, 60,000 a year. I don't know exactly what the salary is.
Yep.
Another person is a senior IT developer and he earns 130.
Yep.
Okay? So these are completely different things because the person who earns 40 or 50 or 60 uses all his money to pay for rent, usually because they don't have a house, right?
Yeah.
Food, and a bit more, right? And that's it.
Yep.
The guy on the 130 has completely different expense patterns, right? Yeah. So he can employ someone who is going to clean his house. He can spend on restaurants, on clothing, on other stuff. He can save a bit, right?
Yeah.
And from all the savings, we can also have investments from the other side, right? People can borrow those funds.
Yeah. Okay.
So these are completely different types of positions. And what we had in the past, in the mining era, we had a lot of highly paid jobs. Most of them were not sophisticated, but many people were deep into the six figures, right?
Yeah.
And these are the positions that we need. And obviously, if we don't have the mining, we need to have that in the technology.
Yeah, totally.
And if we have that in the technology, then we're in a better position.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very good read, mate. So, look, just to bring it to a head, I think there's some absolute gold in what you've mentioned there, and drawing a thread through the keys there. We're coming into a very positive environment potentially in property generally. So if I'm an investor, Doron, and I've got $500,000 to $600,000 to spend, I'm looking for a house. My focus is on highest growth over the next 15 years plus, so I'm in it for the long term. If we go around the country, what would be your top 3 areas you think that you'd start to focus on in the next 12 months?
So, look, first, Melbourne is the number 1. Number 2 and number 3, and I'll tell you which areas and why and what happens there.
Great.
So, the key thing with Melbourne is that currently this is the only place that you can have both the combination that you're looking for. Because number 1, you're looking for houses, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2, you're looking for a really good proximity to the CBD.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And number 3, you're looking for a sensational long-term sustainable growth, and also you would like to reduce the risk.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Now, what happens in Melbourne? And let's first talk about the western suburbs, then we'll talk about other areas. Okay.
Yep.
Now, what happens there is something in Melbourne West is number 1. Why? Few reasons. The first one, price range. The median AVM for houses is around $617,000. Okay.
Yep.
Now, Melbourne West is replicating the very same patterns that we saw in the western suburbs of Sydney,
right.
Which means gentrification, which means even high crime areas significantly outperform the market. Okay?
Yeah.
We see land values are going up. We see a huge undersupply of properties, of houses. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the great thing about Melbourne is that they also have relatively good plans and rezoning for units. And why is it so good? Because of a very simple reason. If I have a house, I own the land. And if I own land and there is rezoning in the area, the land value is going up significantly.
Yeah.
And we saw that a lot in Sunshine and Sunshine West. Yeah. So there was a funny situation where a couple of years ago where houses carry ultra low risk and units carry very high risk.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is so Melbourne West is absolutely brilliant.
Right.
Another good area, another SA4, again with a good proximity to the CBD is the Melbourne Northwest.
Yep.
Which is a bit further out. The median prices are $642.
Yep.
For houses. And again, very, very similar things. Now, and again, good demand and affordability is a huge key driver for those areas.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go out a bit, and this is an interesting one, it's Geelong. Now, what happens in Geelong is interesting because of a few things. So the entire area has been developed and is being transformed materially.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it became from a suburb of compromise to an area of choice.
Yeah.
We saw property prices went up really, really significantly. The median of a house in the SA4 is about the 600.
Yeah.
Now there are big plans on the train line between Geelong to Melbourne that it will take you roughly 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this area is also considered really good, and there is another area, and again it's a bit outside of Melbourne. The price is a bit high. It's about the 690. But it is a lovely, lovely area that I think that you know really good, which is the Mornington Peninsula.
Yeah, yes, beautiful part of the world, mate. Yep,
Exactly. Now, what happens now is that there is also a very strong trend. It's modern trend. It's not millennial. Yeah, we talk about boomers and Gen X to move to good lifestyle areas. Okay. We have either the sea change or the tree change, and the Mornington Peninsula is a sensational place. Okay, it's a really good place. It's a beautiful area. The demographics is really good. It's relatively reasonable access to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Again, the prices are not that cheap. It's $693, but when you talk about cost benefit, this is a really magnificent area.
I'm talking to you from there right now. I'm actually we've got a second base over in that neck of the woods now, close to my wife's family, and spending more time over here than what we have done in the past. And it is a beautiful spot, and everything you've just said, very easy to get to the city. It's pretty easy to get to anywhere, and a great lifestyle location at the same time.
Yeah, so first, obviously, you know what you're doing. But in addition, what we see lately in recent years is that when we have more flexible working arrangements, we have more freelancers, we have more experts, we have more, let's call it mobile professionals, we have more people with money who retire or semi-retire.
Yeah.
So all of these areas of their lifestyle, they enjoy huge demand.
Yeah.
So if we move now to New South Wales, New South Wales is obviously tricky. Why? Because we have a problem with the prices there, in plain English, okay?
Yeah.
If you want something with a relatively good proximity to Sydney CBD, it has to start with the 7 figures, which is not really good.
Yeah.
Now, and then what we saw in Sydney is that you have a few options. Option number one is to go to the outer southwest. Okay, so the hardcore of the western suburbs. It takes you roughly an hour or so to get to Sydney CBD.
Yep.
The key thing with the outer areas of Sydney is that, again, because of undersupply of properties in the inner and middle rings and outrageous property prices,
yep,
many people have to move out. Another area is same format of kind of western suburbs is the Sydney Blacktown areas.
Okay.
The third one, which is interesting and has become very popular in recent years, is the Central Coast. Okay, so we have the median AVN for houses is around the 600, and you have quite a few popular areas there. Now, as you can imagine, areas or suburbs that are big suburbs require premium.
Yep.
But you have other suburbs that are not on the beach but have good access to the beach. Now, this area is a lovely area, and again, many people from Sydney move there because you have a lifestyle or beach lifestyle for a fraction of the cost that you have in Sydney.
Oh, excellent. What about if we look at Queensland? What's your thoughts around Queensland?
Okay, so look, Queensland actually is an interesting place. So let's talk about Southeast Queensland, okay?
Yeah.
Let's remove the background noises. Let's not think about Central Queensland, mining towns, Cairns. Let's leave it for other discussions.
Yeah.
Now, in Queensland, actually, you have quite a few interesting things. So obviously, the most popular areas, especially when you think about long-term and lifestyle and all of those things, are the Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast, okay? Now, the Sunshine Coast, you have a median price of $641. Now, the key thing to understand that the Sunshine Coast is not necessarily Noosa. Noosa is way more expensive.
Yeah.
But around that area, there are quite a few suburbs with good proximity to the beaches, very popular areas that people really, really like.
Yeah.
Another area that, again, we see big population growth. We see also a lot of developments of units, which means land prices become more expensive, is obviously the Gold Coast, okay?
Yeah, right.
The median AVM is around the 669, so obviously you have some areas that are around the 5 to 600. You have some areas that obviously are more than that.
Yeah.
Now, if we talk about Brisbane, so look, Brisbane East and Brisbane South, both of them are relatively well located, good access to the CBD, good prices. The south area is more expensive with the 680 AVM.
Yeah.
Brisbane East is more affordable with the 560. Okay.
Yep.
Now, if you have the lower end of the market, which means your budget is below the 5, between the 4 to 5, then you can go out to, but you have to be patient. You have to go to areas like other Moreton Bay,
Yep.
which is also a lovely area. Moreton Bay North or Moreton Bay South.
Yep.
And the point here that obviously Moreton Bay is the same side of the Sunshine Coast, but not as popular, right? And you have a bit more development there, so you just need to be a bit more patient. But if you have lower budget, that this is these are the places for you.
Yeah, love it. You mentioned South Australia as well. Let's have a quick chat about SA. Are there any particular locations there that you think are of merit?
So look, the key problem with this South Australia is the budget. Yeah. Why is that? Because you know why is that? Because you're from there. Because when you talk about the budget of, let's say, the 5 to 600, it doesn't leave you with many options. Effectively, you have Adelaide South and Adelaide West.
Yeah.
Basically, that's basically it. If you have unlimited budget, then this is a different conversation, because you have Adelaide Central and Hills. I specifically like the Hills area.
Yeah, me too.
Which is a really good combination of beautiful houses, good access to the CBD. The problem is that the prices are just start from the mid 7s.
Yeah.
In many cases, it goes way deep into the 7 figures.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a house that ticks all the boxes. Okay. Yeah. On the other hand, you don't want to go to the southeast or to the outback with the property prices are way lower, but also the risk and the demand is not as good.
Yeah, no critical mass to drive the economies in those areas. So a bit like a mining town, you're going to be very hit and miss and a bit of a roller coaster ride. So not the sustainability in those locations. That's brilliant, mate. Well, look, really appreciative of your time, mate. I know how precious that time is. You've given us some brilliant insights across what's happened, what we can learn from it, what's about to happen, what that means to existing and would-be investors, and a really good drill down on where to look given those sort of price parameters we spoke about. Always love talking to you, mate. I'm going to really encourage the listeners to jump on your site, Riskwise Property, and subscribe to those reports we spoke about, because they really are giving them true independent insights on where things are happening. And I love the way you call it how it is. There's no vested interest in what you're saying, Doron. It's just how you see it based on the quite intricate parameters that you build around assessing what's happening in property. So very appreciative to have you back, and want to continue to do this with you, Doron, because your insights, you talk about the few people that you should listen to. You're one of them. I add you to that list for myself, so would be very humbled if you're happy to continue to join me on Get Invested to give regular updates on what's happening in property around the country.
Yeah, definitely, Bushy. First, thank you so much for having me and all the nice words and compliments, which is really good. And definitely, just let me know. I'm always here to help. And again, just say it as it is. Yep. It is what it is, right?
It is what it is, mate. Good on you, mate. Cheers.
Well, freedom fighters, how good was that? To get a summary of all this investment gold in the show notes, just email me on hello@khgroup.com.au. It's hello@khgroup.com.au. Or check us out at www.bushymartin.com.au/Get Invested. I look forward to joining you next week for another episode of the Get Invested podcast. So thanks for listening, and as always, dream as if you live forever and live as if you die tomorrow.